Being a writer in the English countryside is a true joy. I'm Victoria Connolly, and I've lived in Suffolk for the past 14 years, and I want to take you on a little writerly tour of my home county, exploring some of the places that inspire me and that you might recognise from my Book Lovers series. And I think they just happen to be some of the prettiest locations in Suffolk. Let's start with a drive out to Withermarsh Green, a tiny hamlet near the town of Hadley. We visited on a bright day in spring when the daffodils were at their best. I love this place, and when I was imagining my heroine, Callie Logan, moving to Suffolk from London and buying a thatched cottage on a green, I knew it would look like this, and so Owl Cottage was born. Another gorgeous Suffolk green can be found in the village of Cavendish, and although these are some of the most famous thatched cottages in Suffolk, I kind of reimagined the scene for my book, because this is where Polly Nightingale lives, in a modest terrace house, and the green is where she has her first rather dramatic meeting with biker Jago Solomon. Just a short drive from Cavendish is the delightful market town of Clare, very thinly disguised as Castle Clare in my Book Lovers series. It's full of medieval buildings, including this one called the Ancient House. The bookshop wasn't open when we visited, but it's so lovely and definitely worth exploring. In my fictional version of Clare, there are actually 3 bookshops: Sam's selling second-hand books, Josh's selling new books, and Bryony's selling children's books. Hidden behind this row of shops, you'll find the tiny library. This is perhaps the most romantic setting in my fictional Castle Clare, as it's where Rick Wildman hides love letters in books for librarian Megan Nightingale to find. There are some very pretty shops in Clare, and there's something very special about a place with bunting, isn't there? I think it's one of the loveliest towns in Suffolk, and I just knew this was the place to set my series, with its gorgeous shops and old world charm, and delightful market square. The fish and chip shop features in my series, but I'm afraid Colin the baker's shop, Well Bread, is fictional. You know, I sometimes get a bit confused when I visit, half expecting to find the town that I've created rather than the real one. The church is one of Suffolk's magnificent wall churches, built on the profit from the booming wool trade in the medieval age. And listen for the slightly out-of-tune bell, which always makes me laugh and wince a little. Just opposite the church is the school where Archie and Sonny go, and a short walk takes you to 2 terraces which inspired Lilac Row in my second book. At the other end of the town, you'll find the terrace where I imagined Winston Kneller lives with his dear old dog Delilah. There isn't much left of the castle these days, but it's definitely worth the short hike to the top for the fabulous views across the town and the surrounding countryside. This is the setting for a wonderfully romantic and unexpected scene in the new book, One More Page Before I Kiss You. The countryside around Clare is very pretty, and you can easily imagine the Nightingale family walking their dogs here after one of their Sunday lunches. One of my favourite characters in the series is Flo Lohman, and I imagined her pink thatched cottage looking like a French fancy when I was writing Natural Born Readers, and so this sweet home fits the bill perfectly. We're leaving Clare now and heading to one of the key settings in the new book, Melton Green, which was inspired by the village of Mellis. We visited on a hot day in July, and I couldn't resist stopping at the church first. One of my favourite writers from my childhood is buried here, Christine Pullen Thompson. She was one of 3 sisters who wrote countless pony novels, and I couldn't get enough of them. Her daughter Charlotte Popesco is also a writer and wrote another of my favourite books called Hens in the Garden, Eggs in the Kitchen. This is a place of wide open skies and prairie-like common. And in mid-July, there's plenty of interest for the pollinators. There's a glorious feeling of space here, and I knew I wanted to capture that. In my latest book lovers novel, Oak Farm Cottage is based on Walnut Tree Farm, the home bought by the wonderful nature writer Roger Deacon, who restored the old timber frame property here and inspired the hero in my story. You can just glimpse his home from the track. From here you can walk across the common to the ancient Drover's Lane. If you look closely, you can spy an old cart left to rot in the hedge. And Roger Deacon's famous shepherd's hut. The lane is full of blackberries and glorious glimpses of the golden fields beyond. The track crosses the main railway line, and there's a lovely story about how Roger Deacon would ask if the train could slow down at this point so that he could jump off at the end of his land. And this is the wonderful oak tree after which Oak Farm Cottage is named in my book. Mellis is such a special place, and it was hard to leave it behind on that glorious summer day. But it's time to share another couple of locations with you. I love to feature churches in my books whenever I can. There's something so special about these ancient buildings and the stories they tell about the past. There are 2 churches that feature in the Book Lovers series, Stonham Aspal, whose wonderful tomb of a knight becomes the main character in the ghostly story Lara tells in Christmas with the Book Lovers. And beautiful Blythburgh Church, known as the Cathedral of the Marshes, is where poor Sam had a very awkward moment underneath the lovely angels. It also features in the novella Christmas with the Book Lovers, with the story of Black Shuck, the devilish dog of East Anglia, who, according to legend, left these scorch marks on the door here. So that's a little tour of just a few of the places that have inspired me to write. I hope you enjoyed exploring with me, and that it's given you an insight into how places can be so important in the setting of a story. And perhaps it might inspire you to read the Book Lovers series if you haven't already. You'll find links to them all in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to come along on future outings.